The apartment smelled like burnt toast and possibility. That was the lie. I kept feeding myself every time Marcus kicked the door open with another half-baked plan. Another person he swore would complete the vibe. His energy flooded the room the way cheap cologne does, impossible to ignore. Impossible to escape, and somehow against all logic. Exactly the drug I didn't know I was addicted to. My name is David Chen, 28, freelance graphic designer. Owner of a black cat named Tofu because of course I named him after something soft and ridiculous. My life had been a perfectly balanced spreadsheet, color-coded deadlines, noise-canceling headphones, feelings filed under review quarterly, then delete. Then James happened. It was a Tuesday in late October 3 years ago when Marcus dragged him home like a stray he'd decided the household needed. Tuesdays were supposed to be safe. Tuesdays were ramen and invoicing and pretending I wasn't checking Grindr out of boredom rather than actual interest. David? James, David, Marcus announced. As if he were unveiling sculptures he'd personally commissioned. I didn't look up from my laptop. Welcome to the chaos. James's laugh was low, unhurried. Thanks for having me. Marcus says you're the only sane person in his orbit. All lies, I muttered. Marcus flopped onto the beanbag. David's allergic to fun. It's his whole personality. James smiled, not the performative kind. People flash when they want to be liked. But something smaller, private. Like he'd just remembered a joke no one else was in on. My stomach did something unforgivable. I blamed the ramen. He kept coming back. Thursday movie nights. Sunday hangovers that required pancakes and Marcus's terrible playlists. James never announced himself. He just appeared 2 coffees in hand. One exactly the way I secretly liked it, oat milk. Ash. 1 sugar, no lid because I'm not a child. He'd sprawl across our ugly green couch like he'd been built for it. Long legs everywhere, camera always within reach. He photographed everything. The way light fractured through the fire escape at 4 p.m., the chipped mug I refused to throw away. Tofu, mostly. One afternoon he spent 45 minutes lying on the floor, just to catch the exact second Tofu's whiskers caught the sun. Later he showed me the shot on the back of his camera. It wasn't my cat anymore. It was loneliness wearing fur, content and ancient and untouchable. You see things, I said before I could stop myself. Compliments felt like handing someone a loaded gun. He shrugged. I just refused to look away. I started finding excuses to be in the living room when I knew he'd be there. I'd pretend to work while actually watching the way he pushed his hair out of his eyes with the heel of his hand. The way he bit his lower lip when he was thinking. I told myself it was aesthetic appreciation, like enjoying a well-designed font. I had rules. 1. Do not fall for straight men. 2. Do not fall for Marcus's friends. 3. Do not fall. Period. James broke all 3 without ever touching me. He wasn't obviously anything. Not camp, not macho, not trying. Just himself. He talked about ex-girlfriends the same way he talked about ex-cameras fond, little exasperated, already halfway gone. I cataloged every pronoun like evidence in a trial where I was both prosecutor and accused. Then Marcus left for Connecticut for a long weekend, and the apartment shrank to the size of my pulse. Friday night, rain against the windows like someone throwing handfuls of gravel. Tofu abandoned me for the radiator. James showed up anyway, hair dripping, holding a bottle of red wine and a paper bag that smelled like sesame and danger. Figured you weren't going to feed yourself, he said. Kicking off wet boots, I should have made an excuse. Instead, I opened the wine we ate on the couch, cartons balanced on our knees. Some documentary about penguins playing because neither of us could decide on anything else. The wine disappeared faster than it should have. At some point, the space between us on the couch narrowed to a suggestion. You're quiet tonight. Lee, he said. I'm always quiet. No. Usually you're quiet like a bomb with the timer hidden. Tonight you're quiet, like someone's stolen the timer. I laughed before I could stop it. He was too good at that, seeing the shape of things I'd spent years trying to bury. He set his wine glass down, turned to face me fully. Can I ask you something and you not deflect for once? No promises. Have you ever let anyone in? Like, really in? The question landed between us like a live wire. I thought of every careful relationship I'd had, nice women, reasonable sex, polite breakups. I thought of the way I'd trained myself not to want more than surface, because depth felt like drowning. No, I said. The honesty tasted like metal. He studied me for a long moment. Then, quietly, would you like to? The room tilted. The rain got louder. Tofu jumped off the radiator and left. The traitor. I could have lied. I could have made a joke, changed the subject, gone to bed with my armor intact. Instead, I said, I don't know how. Something shifted in his face, surprise, maybe relief. He reached out, slow enough that I could have stopped him, and brushed the back of his knuckles against my cheek. His hand was warm, real. I'm not asking you to know how, he said. I'm asking if you want to try. My heart was trying to punch its way out of my ribcage. Every alarm I'd ever installed went off at once. I kissed him before the alarms could win. It wasn't gentle. 3 years of pretending not to want this came out all at once, teeth and desperation, and the taste of wine and sesame oil. He made a sound like I'd surprised him in the best way. Hands sliding into my hair, pulling me closer like he'd been waiting to. The couch complained. Somewhere a carton of dumplings hit the floor. When we pulled apart, we were both breathing like we'd run up 6 flights of stairs. David, he said, voice rough, forehead still against mine. I need to know this isn't just wine and loneliness. It's been 3 years of wine and loneliness, I said. Tonight's just the night I stopped lying about it. He laughed shaky and kissed me again, softer this time. Like a promise. Later, much later. Tangled in my sheets with the city humming outside and Tofu glaring at us from the doorway like we'd personally offended him. James traced the line of my shoulder with one finger. I thought you were straight. I mumbled into his neck. I thought I was complicated, he said. Turns out I just hadn't met the right person to uncomplicate me. I wanted to argue about labels, about timing, about Marcus finding out, and everything exploding. Instead, I fell asleep with his heartbeat under my ear, and the apartment smelling, for once. Like coffee and sex and a future I hadn't dared put on any spreadsheet. The next morning, Marcus came home early, took one look at us drinking coffee in yesterday's clothes, and grinned like Christmas had arrived 10 months early. About fucking time, he said, stealing the last of James's bagel. You two were so obvious it was painful. James and I looked at each other across the kitchen table. He reached over and laced our fingers together, as casual as anything. The apartment still smelled faintly of burnt toast, but now it smelled like beginning too. His hands were capable of incredible things. I'd watched them before, of course. On the back of a camera, adjusting a lens with the kind of patience most people reserve for diffusing bombs, framing light like it was something he could reason with. Once, at Marcus's apartment, he'd spent 20 silent minutes arranging 3 mismatched coffee cups on a windowsill, until the afternoon sun turned them into something sacred. I'd stood in the doorway pretending to scroll through my phone while actually memorizing the way. His fingers moved, deliberate, gentle, like he believed everything deserved to be handled as though it might bruise. Now those same hands were telling the Red Hook story, sketching disaster in the air between us. A dropped light stand, a model who'd threatened to walk, a client who'd called him sweetheart in the tone people use when they're about to make your life miserable. Everyone at the table was laughing, Marcus's loudest of all. But I was stuck on the small scar across James's left knuckle, pale against his skin. I wondered where it had come from. I wondered what it would feel like under my thumb. I hated that I wondered. He finished the story and reached for his water glass. Our eyes caught for half a second, nothing dramatic. Just the ordinary collision that happens in crowded restaurants. And something in my chest lurched so violently I had to look away. I focused on the menu instead. $28 for 3 ravioli? Sophistication apparently came in very small portions. Later, when the check came and everyone was doing the polite dance of pretending they wanted to split it evenly, despite Marcus ordering the second most expensive bottle of wine, James leaned over to me. You okay? He asked, low enough that no one else heard. The question was so simple, it felt like a trap. "I'm great," I said. My voice came out bright and brittle, the tone I'd perfected in college when professors asked why I'd missed a seminar again. "I'm great, just swamped, just tired, just coming down with something." Anything but the truth. He studied me for a beat longer than comfortable, then nodded and turned back to the bill. I hated how easily he let me get away with it. Outside, the air had turned sharp enough to bite. November pretending it was already winter. Marcus wanted to keep the night going, of course he did. Suggested we walk to some bar in Fort Greene he swore had the best old-fashioned in Brooklyn. People paired off naturally as we moved down the sidewalk. I ended up next to James because the universe has a sense of humor. We didn't speak for the first block. Then he said, "You brought Marcus a gift card." It wasn't a question. It wasn't quite an accusation either. Yeah, well, Al shrugged inside my coat. "I'm not exactly known for my artistic vision." "That's not what I meant." I knew exactly what he meant. The photograph he'd given Marcus was still glowing in my head like a lit match. I'd spent actual hours trying to think of a gift that would mean something, then panicked and bought the safest possible option. A gift card felt honest in its cowardice. "Here is money. Please don't ask me to be vulnerable." James kicked a pebble. It skittered across the pavement and disappeared. "You don't have to do that with me, you know." "Do what?" "Whatever this is," he gestured vaguely, like my entire personality was a card trick he'd figured out. "The whole performance." I laughed too loudly. A couple walking their dog turned to look. "I have no idea what you're talking about." He stopped walking. Everyone else kept going, swallowed by the orange glow of the streetlights ahead, till it was just us under the awning of a closed bodega. "I'm not trying to corner you," he said quietly. I like you. The real version. Not the one that times how long to hold eye contact, so it seems sincere but not intense." My stomach dropped so fast I felt it in my knees. "I don't." I started, then stopped. The lie tasted sour even before it left my mouth. James waited. He was good at waiting. It was infuriating. "I don't know how to do this," I said finally. The words came out small, almost lost in the space between us. "Do what?" "Be known." I swallowed. Without the safety rails. He didn't say anything platitudinous, like it's okay or everyone feels that way. He just looked at me with that steady, unshowy attention he gave everything. Coffee cups, mountains, moments of joy he caught on film, and I felt the last of my careful architecture start to slide. "I'm scared," I admitted. It sounded ridiculous out loud. I was 31 years old and terrified of being seen. "I know," he said. "That's it." "You know?" He smiled, small and crooked. "Knowing's the easy part. The rest is harder." I wanted to ask what the rest was. I wanted to ask if he was offering to stick around for it. Instead, I stared at the cracked sidewalk like it might offer instructions. He took one step closer. Not crowding, just enough that I could smell the faint cedar in his coat. "I'm not asking you to tear it all down tonight," he said. "Just maybe leave a window open. That's all." I laughed. A real one this time, shaky and surprised. "You make it sound simple. It's not. But pretending forever's exhausting." "You look tired." I was. God, I was somewhere down the block. Marcus shouted our names, his voice carrying the particular joy of someone 3 drinks past, deciding the night was legendary. James tilted his head in that direction. "We should catch up," he said. Yeah, we started walking again. Our shoulders brushed once, twice. Neither of us moved away. Half a block later, without looking at me, he said, "For what it's worth, I see you anyway. The performance doesn't hide as much as you think." I didn't answer. I couldn't. My throat had closed with something that felt dangerously like hope. When we reached the bar, the music was loud and the lighting forgiving. Marcus handed me a drink I hadn't asked for. James disappeared into the crowd for a minute and came back with 2 waters, pressed one into my hand without comment. His fingers brushed mine and stayed there a second longer than strictly necessary. I didn't pull away much later. When the night had blurred around the edges and people were making half-hearted noises about last train, James found me by the jukebox, pretending to care about song selections. "Hey," he said. "Hey," reached past me, selected something I didn't recognize, then turned so we were face to face. Closer than we'd ever been sober. "I'm going to kiss you now," he said. Matter of fact, like he was warning me the 4 train was delayed. "Unless you tell me not to." I should have said something clever. I should have stepped back. Instead, I stood very still and let the moment stretch until it was unbearable. Didn't tell him not to? His mouth was warm and tasted faintly of lime and the particular certainty of someone who'd decided exactly what he wanted. My hands found the front of his coat without permission. When we pulled apart, the bar noise rushed back in like water filling a vacuum. He rested his forehead against mine, still performing. He asked, breathless. I laughed against his lips. "Working on it." "Good," he said. "I've got time." For the first time in years, I believed someone might. The gallery opening was packed, the air thick with wine breath and pretentious laughter. Sophia was in her element, holding her phone like a camera, gesturing wildly as she filmed a short clip for her followers. "Watch this," she laughed, swirling her free hand through the air. Chaos, but make it aesthetic. The abstract painting behind her looked like a toddler had attacked it with ketchup in despair, and somehow her chaotic dance made it hilarious. Everyone cracked up. Everyone except me. I stood near the cheese table, nursing a plastic cup of cheap Merlot, staring at the floor. "Ethan, you're quiet tonight," Leo said, nudging me with his elbow. He had paint flecks on his sleeve from helping Sophia set up earlier. "What's up?" "Nothing," I answered on autopilot. The same nothing I always gave. "Long week at the office. Spreadsheets, you know." Sophia glanced over, still laughing from her video, but Leo kept watching me. Then Alex did too. Alex, he was leaning against the wall, one hand in the pocket of his dark jeans, the other holding a beer. He hadn't said much all night, just observed the room with that calm, thoughtful look he always had, like he was sketching people in his head before he ever put pencil to paper. When his eyes met mine, it felt like the air pressure dropped, like a storm rolling in slow motion. "You do look tired," Alex said gently. His voice was low, careful, like he was choosing each word by hand. "You should take a break, Ethan. Do something that makes you feel alive." "I feel alive," I shot back, too fast, too defensive. He just nodded. "Okay." But his eyes didn't agree. Later. After the crowd thinned and the gallery lights dimmed, the 4 of us walked to the L train. Sophia skipped ahead, still buzzing from the attention, texting her girlfriend about how many views the video already had. Leo was telling her to watch for the curb. Alex slowed until he was walking beside me. The October wind cut through my jacket. The city smelled like wet leaves and pizza. Everything felt too sharp, too loud. "I'm worried about you," Alex said. No warning. "Don't be," I replied. "I'm fine." "You're not." He said it simply, like stating the weather. "You haven't been for months. You're holding your breath, Ethan, all the time." "I'm breathing just fine." My voice cracked on the last word. "Great proof." "Are you?" He stopped walking. We were under a street lamp, the orange light carving shadows across his face. People streamed around us, but it felt like we were alone. Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you're living like you're sorry for existing. Like you're trying to take up as little space as possible. I should have laughed it off. Made a joke about cubicle life. Walked away instead, I whispered. "What do you want from me, Alex?" He looked at me for a long time. So long, I could hear my heart beat in my ears. "I want you to stop pretending," he said finally, voice soft. "Just once. Be real with me. For 1 second." "You don't know me," I said, but it sounded weak. Hollow. "I know enough." He stepped closer. Not crowding, just close enough that I could smell the faint cedar in his cologne. "I know you're the smartest person in any room, and you act like you're not. I know you watch everything like you're scared to miss a detail that might hurt you. I know you laugh at Sophia's videos, but you never dance in them." And I know he stopped. Took a breath. "I know when you look at me, it's different. It's not the way you look at Leo or Sophia or anyone else at these openings. It's careful. Like you're afraid I'll notice. My lungs forgot how to work. The wind kept blowing. Somewhere, a siren wailed. Alex, I started, but nothing followed. I'm not asking you for anything, he said quickly, hands up like surrender. I'm not expecting you to say anything back. I see you, Ethan, all of you. The quiet parts, the scared parts, the brilliant parts. And I like what I see. That's all. Sophia's voice cut through from ahead. You two coming, or are we sleeping on the sidewalk? The moment shattered. We started walking again. Alex didn't push. We didn't speak on the platform, or on the train, or when we said goodnight at my stop. But something inside me had cracked open and I couldn't close it again that night. I didn't sleep. I sat on my fire escape with a blanket and a lukewarm cup of tea, staring at the skyline. 29 years old, and I'd had my life neatly organized. Straight, simple, safe. I liked women. I was sure of it. I dated them. Kissed them. It wasn't a lie, it just never felt like the whole truth. Like I'd been reading only the even-numbered pages of a book and convinced myself that was the full story. But Alex's words kept circling. I see you. I like what I see. I thought about the way my stomach flipped when he handed me a coffee last month. How I'd looked away too fast. The way I always sat across from him at brunch, so I wouldn't have to feel him next to me. The way I noticed the small scar on his left hand when he sketched, and how I'd memorized it without meaning to. I'd been protecting a version of myself that suddenly felt too small. Like I'd built a house with no windows because I was afraid of the view. Safety wasn't honesty. I saw that now. And honesty felt enormous, terrifying, electric. The next morning, I texted the group chat about brunch like always. Sophia sent a voice note of her screaming about a new exhibition. Leo sent a meme. Alex sent a simple, "Sounds good? See you there?" I stared at the message longer than I should have. When I walked into the cafe an hour later, he was already at our usual booth, sketching on a napkin. He looked up and smiled. Not the polite kind, the real one that reached his eyes. I slid in across from him. My heart was racing, but I didn't look away this time. "Hey." I said, "Hey," he replied, soft. Sophia and Leo arrived 5 minutes later, loud and chaotic as ever. But for those 5 minutes, it was just us, and I let myself breathe. I didn't have answers yet. I didn't know what this meant, or what I wanted, or how to say any of it out loud. But for the first time in years, I wasn't apologizing for taking up space. I was just here, and maybe, just maybe, that was enough to start. The week that followed was the strangest of my life. I started taking the long way home from the subway, so I wouldn't have to pass the cafe on the corner where Leo worked the evening shift. I told myself it was because I was trying to get more steps in. But the truth was, I couldn't bear the possibility of seeing him through the window, sleeves rolled up, laughing with a customer the way he used to laugh with me, before everything tilted sideways. I declined 3 separate invitations to hang out. One was a group thing drinks after work with the usual crowd, and twice he texted just me. "You free tonight?" And then, an hour later, no pressure. Just thought we could talk. I left him on read both times. Not out of cruelty. Out of pure animal panic, Rhea noticed, of course. She noticed everything. She came out of her room one night holding 2 beers and handed me one without asking. "You're vibrating," she said. "Like a phone left on a washing machine. I'm fine." "You're the opposite of fine. You're performing fine so hard I'm worried you're going to pull something." I laughed, but it came out strangled. She let it go. That was worse, somehow. By Friday, I was raw, frayed at every edge, convinced I could keep the new shape of my heart secret forever if I just never looked directly at it. Then the doorbell rang. Rhea was on night shift at the hospital. I was alone, wearing the same hoodie for the days in a row, eating cereal straight from the box. I opened the door, and there was Leo, holding a paper bag from the Vietnamese place we liked, and looking like he hadn't slept either. "We need to talk," he said. The 4 most dangerous words in the English language. I don't think we do, I answered, already trying to close the door. He put his hand flat against it, gentle but firm. I think the status quo is currently stabbing you in the chest, he said. And I'm bleeding in solidarity, so maybe we could at least put pressure on the wound together. I should have shut the door anyway. Instead, I stepped back and let him in. He set the bag on the counter, took out 2 containers of pho, and then just looked at me like he was trying to solve a puzzle with half the pieces missing. You kissed me, he said quietly. My stomach dropped through the floor. I absolutely did not in my head, he went on, cutting me off without raising his voice. You've kissed me in my head about 800 times this week, and every single time you looked like you were drowning and flying at once. And every single time I woke up wanting the real thing so badly, it felt like a bruise. God, I couldn't breathe. My hands were shaking. I stuck them in the hoodie pocket so he wouldn't see. This is complicated, I managed. Leo shook his head. It isn't. You're just spectacular at complicated. You collect it the way other people collect houseplants. But this, he gestured between us, a small, helpless wave. This is simple. I'm in love with you. I think you're in love with me. The only complicated part is you deciding whether you're allowed to have something you want. The room narrowed to the sound of my own pulse. I don't know if I can be what you need, I whispered. You don't have to be anything, he said. Just stop performing for 5 goddamn seconds and let me see you. He didn't move closer. He waited. I could have walked away. I could have joked, deflected, hidden behind 8 layers of sarcasm and 3 walls of plausible deniability. That's what the old blueprint said to do instead. I crossed the kitchen in 3 steps and kissed him like someone finally handing over a confession they'd been carrying for years. It wasn't careful. It wasn't polite. It was months of almost and years of never, and one bright electric yes, finally spoken aloud with my mouth on his. When we pulled apart, I was crying, actually crying, the kind that makes your throat raw. There, I said, voice cracking. That was me not performing. He brushed a tear off my cheek with his thumb, smiling like the sun had personally asked him to. Hi, he whispered. Nice to meet the real you. We ate cold pho at 2 a.m. and told each other everything we'd never risked saying in daylight. He told me about Mateo, the boy who taught him what want felt like, and then taught him what losing felt like, sharper and longer lasting. How for years after, Leo dated women who were kind and safe and never quite enough, because enough felt too dangerous. I told him about Sarah, about Priya, about every relationship that worked perfectly on paper and still left me standing outside, myself watching someone else live my life. I told him how sharing a bed with him on that one drunk night, nothing but sleep, fully clothed. His heartbeat under my ear had rewritten the operating system of my entire body. I'm still scared, I admitted later. Much later, when we were tangled together on the couch under the same blanket, his fingers tracing idle circles on my wrist. I'm scared I'll ruin this, that you'll see whatever it is everyone else eventually sees and decide it isn't worth staying for. He pressed his lips to the inside of my wrist, right over the pulse. Everything's temporary, he said. Sunsets, heartbeats, the exact shade of your eyes in this light. That's not depressing. That's the rule that makes anything matter at all. We just get to decide what we do with the time before it ends. I laughed, wet and astonished. That's very profound for 3:30 a.m. I'm at my wisest when I'm holding you, he said. And I groaned at the cheesiness but pulled him closer because it was unbearably true. We kept it quiet for a while. Not because we were ashamed, never that, but because telling Ria felt like stepping off a cliff we weren't sure how to bottom yet. So we built a small secret country with borders made of stolen hours. He'd show up after closing the cafe smelling like espresso and rain and crawl into my bed like he'd been doing it for years. We talked until the sky turned the color of weak tea. We learned the exact pitch of each other's breathing when we lied about being asleep, just to keep the other one close a little longer. Some nights we didn't talk at all. Some nights the talking was done with hands and mouths, and the kind of silences that feel louder than shouting. Once you let someone see the parts you've spent your whole life boarding up, there's no unseeing. You can't wake up one morning and decide distance was healthier after all. You're in it, bare and ongoing. Betting every day that being known is worth the risk of being left. It was a Tuesday, always Tuesdays in our story. Like the calendar had a crush on us when we finally told Rhea. She came home early. Caught us in the kitchen making breakfast shirtless and laughing over some stupid private joke. Leo had a smear of batter on his cheek. I was licking it off when the door opened. Rhea stopped dead, took in the scene and said, deadpan, "Took you long enough." Then she hugged us both so hard, I felt my ribs creak, whispering, "If you hurt him, I'll end you. But also I love you idiots," into Leo's shoulder. Later, much later. Lying in the dark with his head on my chest and the city humming outside the window, I said it out loud for the first time without flinching. "I love you." He made this sound. Half laugh, half sigh, like relief feels when it finally arrives. "I know," he said. "I've known for months. Just waiting for you to catch up." I pinched him. He kissed me quiet. Temporary? Yes. Everything is. But some things, some people, are worth every fleeting second we're given to hold them. The radiator in our Bushwick walk-up clanked like it was personally offended by winter. I was on the couch pretending to read case law while actually watching Elias out of the corner of my eye. He had one earbud in, the other dangling white cord, swinging every time he leaned over his sketch tablet. He was drawing the view from our fire escape air trees, brick, and a slice of the Manhattan skyline that looked close enough to touch if you were stupid or drunk. Noah came in around 9. Snow melting off his boots, carrying the smell of cold air and the bar he managed in Williamsburg. He took one look at me, one look at Elias, and rolled his eyes so hard I heard it. "You two are exhausting," he said, kicking the door shut behind him. "I'm making cocoa. Try not to combust before I get back." He disappeared into our tiny kitchen. Elias pulled the earbud out. "You okay?" he asked, soft, like he already knew the answer. I closed the laptop. My pulse felt ridiculous. "I need to tell you something." Elias set the tablet aside. He had this way of giving you his entire attention, like the rest of the world had agreed to pause. I hated how much I loved it. "Noah already knows," I said, because it was easier to start with the part that didn't destroy me. "He's known for months, maybe longer." Elias's mouth curved, not quite a smile. "I'm not surprised. He's nosy as hell." I laughed once, a sound like breaking glass. "I'm in love with you." The words sat between us, naked and enormous. Elias didn't flinch. He just looked at me the way he looked at everything he wanted to draw, like he was memorizing the light. "I was waiting for you to notice." He said. I stared. "You what?" He shrugged, sheepish. "You think I spend every weekend in this freezing apartment because Noah's lasagna is that good? I've been trying to get you to look at me since the night Noah dragged me home from that terrible gallery opening in 2022. You spent 45 minutes explaining why Basquiat was overrated, and I decided right then I was doomed." Noah chose that moment to come back in, carrying 3 chipped mugs. He took in the CMY red-faced, Elias smiling like a man who'd just won a bet with God, and handed us the cocoa without comment. Then he sat in the armchair, put his feet on the coffee table, and said, "Finally. I was about to lock you both in the bathroom, you knew." "I see, Ruck." Noah sipped his drink. "Sweetheart, I introduced you on purpose." I saw the way he looked at your stupid argumentative face and thought, "Yep, that's the one who'll put up with Alex's entire personality. My work here is done." Elias laughed, bright and surprised. "I wanted to crawl under the couch and also never move again. You could have said something. I told Noah, and rob you of your dramatic suffering. Never." He raised his mug in toast. "To true love and my unparalleled genius." Things moved quickly after that, the way they do when you've been circling something for years and finally let yourself land. I told my parents over FaceTime from the kitchen while Elias made pancakes in the background, pretending not to listen. My mother took one look at his back broad shoulders, messy black curls, the tattoo of a compass on his forearm, and said, "Oh, thank God. I was starting to think you'd die alone with your Westlaw subscription." My dad just asked if Elias liked baseball, When Elias leaned into frame and said he was a hopeless Mets fan, my father actually teared up. Elias's family was Louder three sisters, two brothers-in-law, a golden retriever named Pickles, and a grandmother who pinched my cheeks and declared I had good birthing hips within 5 minutes of meeting me. I didn't know whether to laugh or flee the state. We told our friends at a bar in Ridgewood the following week. People bought rounds and made speeches, and someone started a group chat titled "Alex Finally Got Laid," that I immediately muted for months in. Almost to the day, Elias took me back to the fire escape where he'd been drawing the night I told him. Snow was falling again, soft and slow. He pulled a small tin box from his coat pocket, the kind that once held Altoids, and opened it. Inside was a single photograph he'd printed on thick paper, me. That same night, lit by the blue glow of my laptop. Looking at him like he was the answer to a question I hadn't known how to ask. "I want to keep taking these," he said. "Not just the pretty moments. The fights and the mornings you burn the toast, and the nights you win your cases, and the ones you lose. All of it. Marry me, Alex. Let me document us." I started crying, which was mortifying because I do not cry, but there we were. I said yes before he finished the sentence. Noah, who'd been hiding around the corner with a bottle of champagne like the meddling romantic he is, came whooping out and sprayed us both. We got married the following spring in a ridiculous loft in Red Hook with exposed brick and too many plants. Noah was my best man. Elias's sister Maya was his. I wore navy. Elias wore black and smiled like he'd invented joy. We wrote our own vows. His ended with, "I promise to keep seeing you, even when you make it difficult." Mine ended with, "I promise to keep letting you." We bought a bigger place in Clinton Hill, 2 bedrooms. Actual windows that opened, a kitchen you could stand in without hitting your head. Noah claimed the second bedroom as his sometimes crash pad and basically never left. Thursday nights became sacred, the 3 of us on the couch with takeout and whatever show we were hate-watching that month. Luna the gray cat we adopted because Elias walked past a shelter and heard her thoughts. Slept on whoever was warmest. One ordinary Tuesday, almost 2 years to the day after the fire escape proposal, I was at the dining table prepping for trial while Elias photographed me from across the room. The light was golden. Late afternoon, the kind that makes everything feel possible. Noah was in the kitchen singing off-key to Billie Holiday and burning garlic bread. I looked up and caught Elias's eye behind the lens. He asked, lowering the camera. "Just thinking," I said, "that I spent 31 years convinced happiness was a verdict you won after enough preparation. Turns out it's just this. You, me, Noah, ruining dinner, Luna shedding on my briefs. The terrifying, perfect ordinariness of it." Elias grinned, snapped one more photo. "Good. I'm putting that in the vows renewal speech." Noah yelled from the kitchen. "Less talking, more helping. You sentimental bastards." We ate burnt garlic bread and perfect pasta and laughed until my ribs hurt. Later, in bed, Elias posted the photo he'd taken, me in my rolled-up shirt sleeves. At hair a mess, looking softer than I'd ever allowed myself to be. The caption read, "He was my best friend's grumpy roommate who hated small talk. Now he's my home." The likes poured in. I read a few, then set the phone down and turned to him. "You're impossible," whispered. "I know," he whispered back. "You love me anyway." I did. God help me, I did. Some nights, I still wake up at 3 a.m. certain it was all a dream, this life where I'm known and loved exactly as I am. Then Elias shifts in his sleep, throws an arm over me like it's the most natural thing in the world, and I remember, this is real. The boy who once thought certainty was the only safety worth having learned that the bravest thing you can do is let someone stay. He was my best friend's roommate. Then he looked at me like I was already his, and I finally believed I could be.